hit the record button. All right, welcome everybody. This is our Zoom roundtable. My name is Evan Laine. I'm the faculty director of the All Inspector Center, and this is our roundtables where we discuss important issues of the day. Today, we're very honored to have a number of experts, which we will be introducing in a second. This is being recorded, and we will make it available on social media. The question we're going to be asking today is voting. Voting has become extremely confusing, especially under COVID, especially confusing for students. Where do you vote? Do you vote at home? Are you at home? Are you on campus? Are you living in Philadelphia? Is it an absentee ballot? Are you an in-person ballot? There's a tremendous amount of confusion involved. And we have people who actually answer your questions on that. I want to start by introducing people. Then what I'm going to do is tell you why it is so important to vote. I will go to Sam after that, Professor Weeks, and then we will turn our roundtable to the experts who will introduce themselves shortly. So I mentioned Sam, so Professor Weeks, if you can just briefly introduce yourself, and I know you're having lunch right now, so we may not see you videoing, but we'll hear you. Go ahead. There you are.
Hi, everyone. Evan, do you want me to say something or just introduce myself?
Just who you are and what your expertise is, and then we'll move from there in a moment.
I'm Sam Weeks. I teach in the Hallmarks program. I'm an anthropologist. I'm excited to be here. I've also been doing some organizing. I've been organizing a vote by mail effort in my neighborhood here in Fairmount, which is close to the Art Museum. So I have a little bit of insight for a campaign that's trying to get people to vote safely by mail. So if people have questions about that, I can answer them later.
Right. I'll turn to Professor Ann Bauer.
I have emergency. I live near a fire station, so you're going to hear emergency vehicles constantly, and I'll just keep muting myself. I'm Dr. Ann Bauer. I'm a professor of biology. I am also a former Peace Corps volunteer. And so I believe in civic engagement. It's in every one of my classes. And I, along with Karen Albert, have been leading the effort on the East Falls campus for many years on doing voter registration. So if you have any question all about voter registration, I am happy to answer it. Karen and I put out a weekly email blast that covers multiple states, that has links to help people in many different states that we know of. If you are in a state that's not listed there and you want information, all you got to do is tell us and we'll get it to you. Once we're 50 days out from the election, which we are, now we're on a countdown. Many states have very strict guidelines on when you're allowed to register. The clock is ticking. If you want to be able to participate, you must get yourself registered first. If you are registered, then the process of how to vote is another process, and we can help you do that as well. As Evan said, that process this year in particular is complicated, way more complicated than it's ever been before. So there are many options, and we'll just talk you through each of the options. I'm on another group called Philly Voter Engagement Forum. It is the most diverse group I've ever participated in. It's every activist in the city of Philadelphia from every walk of life is on that call every Friday. If you want to really participate and be an activist, contact me and I'll get you on that Friday call. Look forward to hearing your questions.
And before I introduce Karen, I just want to make it very clear that Karen and Ann have registered hundreds of Jefferson University students, hundreds, and their work is amazing, which I turn over to Karen Albert.
Right. Hi, everybody. I'm Karen Albert. I'm the coordinator of the All Inspector Center. And as you've heard from Professor Bauer, Ann Bauer and I have been working for a number of years to register students on campus. And this is a particularly challenging year. And I'd love to hear from all of you how we can engage students more, because we used to put a table out at Can Bar and there were lines of people, and now it's a whole different scenario. So I've worked locally on a lot of voter engagement type of projects. and very interested in just getting the vote out and helping students figure out, wade through the very complicated process, especially this year.
So I just want to lead it with a short story and go to Sam, and then we'll go into the actual nuts and bolts of all these things. Year was 2000. The election of Gore versus Bush came down to one state, Florida. 347 votes decided that George Bush become president of the United States. 347 votes. Now, no matter what your politics are, and that's not the point of today, you have to recognize that the world would be different if 347 people out of the millions that voted would have taken the time to vote. The world might be a different place. When you say your vote doesn't count, think about that story. When you say, I'm not going to vote because it doesn't matter, you have effectively given up all power you have as a citizen of the United States of America. I know we could argue, many people feel put upon, but if you don't vote, you have given up. You have failed. You have given in. It is a right that people have fought in many countries for many years for, and yet half of this country or more doesn't vote. It's an absolute disgrace, and shame on us for that. It's not that hard. It's harder this year, but we're going to walk you through it and make it happen. Whatever happens in November, if you don't vote, you are at fault for what happened. If your voice has not been heard, you will have the responsibility for it. And I mean that as serious as I can. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Professor Weeks.
Great. Thanks a lot for this. So it's really exciting to be with you. I would just mention three things. I totally agree with what Evan is saying about the importance of voting. I would also just say that it's not the only form of political engagement out there. And oftentimes voting along with other kinds of activism, organizing, can be particularly effective. So I would start by saying that. And then I think this is a pretty politically savvy group, but I just wanted to mention a question that I've asked for all of my students, particularly those who are from New Jersey, but who are either living on campus or are close by in an apartment off campus. And it might seem a simple question to you, but not everyone knows about it. I mean, if you want to vote in a competitive presidential election, why would it be more important to vote in Pennsylvania than in New Jersey? I'll just open that question up to if someone wants to take it.
Well, I think it's fairly simple. New Jersey is going to go blue. It's gone blue for the longest time. And I read yesterday in the newspaper that Pennsylvania will be, it's looked at as the most critical state in this election, next presidential election. We're going to be the Florida of 2020. We're going to be the state that may pick the next president of the United States. So whoever you're interested in voting for, if you're voting in New Jersey, that's already a done deal. Who's going to be elected, at least chosen in New Jersey. Pennsylvania is going to be in play. So if you have a choice between the two legally, I think it's easy, Sam. I think it's vote in Pennsylvania.
Right, and just to add something to that, and I totally agree with it. I mean, there are competitive elections in New Jersey. I know that there are a couple of congressional districts that are hotly contested. But again, and sort of to use different language, if you want to vote in a competitive election, you definitely vote in Pennsylvania as opposed to New Jersey. Again, this is at the presidential level. There can be a variety of reasons why people would vote. And I know, for instance, I lived in California. In California, congressional and presidential elections typically are not competitive. However, there's all kinds of interesting ballot initiatives. So even though one election might not be competitive, there could be other stakes in play. So that's something to think about. And then the last thing I would bring up would be a question that a student asked me. And this student is from Florida. And she wanted to know if she could vote in Pennsylvania. And she's living on campus. And the answer is absolutely yes. Again, in the US system, once you move to a place, even if it's going to school, you are eligible to vote in that particular jurisdiction. So there's no question. Oftentimes people will doubt, like, well, you're from Florida, you know, you go back there on vacation, your parents are there, yada, yada, yada. All of those things don't matter. If you're in Pennsylvania, if you're going to school, if you're staying here for any amount of time, again, within the US system, you are a Pennsylvania resident and therefore can vote in Pennsylvania. So anyway, those are the three things I would add to this discussion. And I'm looking forward to hearing more perspectives.
Yeah, I'm going to go to Anne because it's really, these questions are very difficult, okay? If hypotheticals, and obviously Karen and Anne and anyone else who knows, if I'm living in Florida, like I'm from Florida, I'm a freshman, I'm 18, I'm freshman, and I'm living in the dorms in Jefferson right now. And my intent is to stay living in the dorms in Jefferson. With that hypothetical, where can I register to vote?
I can answer. Yeah, either Pennsylvania or your native state, wherever, you know, but definitely if you want to vote in Pennsylvania, you can register and go to votespa.com and register to vote. And you'd have to do it right away, because, you know, soon, because the deadline is October. So, you know, and there are a lot of students that Ann Bauer and I have registered just that same way. Of course, the challenge today will be that if they're living away from the polling place near our campus, then they will have to vote by absentee ballot. But certainly you still can vote in Pennsylvania if you're a student registered at our university.
And we had a question that's, go ahead.
So you can. You could also, if you choose, vote absentee ballot from Florida. However, whatever your choice is, whether you're going to register to vote in Pennsylvania or you're going to maintain your Florida residency and you're going to do absentee ballot from Florida, you need to act today. You need to make a plan today, and you need to choose which one you're doing, and you need to put it in play. Because, as we know, the mail system is slower, and an absentee ballot would come through the mail. Number two, if our campus for any reason is to close, I would just want to make this very clear. The mail is not forwarded from your campus box.
Right.
The mail is not forwarded from your campus box. So if you got an absentee ballot sent to your campus box and you were somewhere else, you will not get your absentee ballot. So you need to make a plan that your ballot goes to a mailing address that is a permanent place that you can get access to no matter what happens in the pandemic.
Right. Yeah, we even found out you can't get access, even, you know, there's no forwarding and you cannot get access to the mailbox either on our campus. So it would be better to use a different address if you can.
Going with my hypothetical, Ann, okay? So say from New Jersey, and I'm a Jefferson student, freshman again, or sophomore, whatever it may be, and because of the pandemic, I did not move into the dorm. I'm still in my room in New Jersey doing online, but my intention was to be in Pennsylvania. How about that situation?
Okay. Yeah. You want to take it, Anna?
Yeah, I can take it. So what is your mailing address? It's your mailing address. It's your residence that matters. So if you're living in New Jersey, then you should register in New Jersey. If you do not have a Pennsylvania address, and you're not using, you could use your campus box.
Yes, you
but
could.
We just explained the issues with using your campus box. So if you live in New Jersey, you're a resident of New Jersey, the safest thing to do is to not use your campus box and stay in New Jersey.
Except I was you could still vote in Pennsylvania. You could still say you're a Pennsylvania resident, and you could have your absentee ballot go to, you could say, I'm a Pennsylvania resident, that's my mailing address, the mailbox, but I'm going to vote by absentee and have it go to New Jersey.
You could do that. You
And
could
that's
do
probably,
that.
you want to vote in Pennsylvania's election, that's going to be a common scenario, I think.
Mhm.
And I checked that they will take as a reason for asking for a, because you need a reason on the absentee ballot, and
Mhm.
just saying, because of the pandemic, I'm not at school, I'm living at home, I want my ballot sent to home.
Mhm.
And that's perfectly okay.
So you can do that. You can do that, but you need to, again, that's a two-step process. Number one, you'd have to register to vote in Pennsylvania. And number two, you'd have to, a separate process, ask for an absentee ballot. You
Right.
can do both of those online
Yep.
if you have a PA driver's license.
Oh, true, right.
If you have a New Jersey driver's license, just 2 days ago, they made it possible on Votes PA for you to register to vote without a driver's license, using only a social security card, if you do a signature and take a picture of it with your cell phone.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Okay,
Right.
they just opened that up.
Right.
So that is what you would have to do. Then once you're officially registered, and it will take, it won't be instantaneous, because they're going to check that signature, right? It'll take a couple days. You need to go back to Votes PA and then ask for the absentee ballot. Okay, so it's a two-step process.
Although I was told, at least in Montgomery County, my contact said it's okay to do those two at the same time, and they will work on it. But I don't know if every county, Philadelphia is
Not
doing
Philadelphia.
it. Okay, all right.
Philadelphia's too big. It's a
Yeah.
it doesn't take long. The registration process in Philadelphia, when it's online, is going pretty quickly. You could check back in a day at 24 to 48 hours, and then go ahead and request the absentee ballot for it to be sent to whatever address you want to send to.
And Karen, or anyone else can answer this, because I find this the most confusing. We've heard absentee ballot. We've also heard vote by mail.
Right.
And we've also heard Dropbox.
Yeah.
And of course, we're all familiar with going to the place in the machine. So please, can you tell me what the difference are between all these things?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'm going to do the 4, and then Karen's going to fill in what I missed.
Okay. Okay.
Number 1, you can go to the county election office located in Philadelphia at Center City, and you can vote as soon as they've printed the ballots. All right?
Not
The
happening.
problem is there are several court cases going right now. They were supposed to legally print the ballots September 14th. We are on September 17th, and they haven't printed the ballot yet, okay? But you can do that in person before the election in Philadelphia. This is only Philadelphia, okay? Number 2, you can register to vote online and ask for a mail-in ballot. A mail-in ballot means that it will be, you're living in Pennsylvania, it's going to be mailed to your house in Pennsylvania. To do that, then it gets mailed to your house. Pennsylvania has a tracking system. So once you go to Votes PA, it will track that you're registered. It will track when they mailed you the ballot. It will track when they received the ballot. It will track when they counted the ballot. So you can track all the way along the way, okay? If you are not living at your address that matches your voter registration, then you ask for an absentee ballot, okay? Then you ask for an absentee ballot, and then it is mailed to that address, okay? And then your final thing is to vote in person at your polling location. Right now, for Philadelphia, there's a list online of 400 polling locations that have been approved. Philadelphia just got given $10 million, and their goal is to have 800 polling places located throughout the city available on November 3rd. But they only are at 400 right now. There is a court case right now for Pennsylvania on drop boxes. So drop boxes would be certified boxes that are in a neighborhood that are monitored, where you could actually drop off a ballot before the election or on the day of the election if you didn't want to go inside to a polling place, or you got your mail-in ballot or your absentee ballot and there's not enough time to mail either one of them back. Okay, so those are all the possibilities right now, and it is changing. So you've got to stay on top of this. All of that, there are several court cases right now that have not been resolved. So Karen, you fill in.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say, the difference between, what's so confusing in Pennsylvania is the difference between mail-in and absentee. And mail-in is if you're living, you are in the location where you're registered to vote. So, but you don't want to go in person, you request a mail-in ballot. And from my understanding is you can put like any address on it, but you know, it's you're supposed to, if you're not going to be in the municipality where you're voting, you're supposed to ask for an absentee ballot and put a reason on it, and then they'll mail it to where you're going to be located. So the tricky thing with mail-in is going to be our mailboxes here on campus. That's the and what students should do. It's really hard to do. And the ballots, from what I was reading last night, because they're debating, or they're still resolving the Green Party candidate on the ballot, and that has not been resolved. It may be late September is what I'm hearing, early October before the ballots are mailed. It was going to be this week, but that case wasn't resolved, so now they're delayed. So the key is when you get that ballot by mail, you got to like turn it around immediately and either take it to a drop box, which we hope they'll be available, or mail it. Or I guess you can go to your county board of elections and hand it in.
We have a student question from Vendril. Vendril, your question?
Oh, do I say it myself or you?
Yeah, go ahead. I got you.
Okay. Should I introduce myself, Professor Laine?
Go right in.
Hi, hello. I'm Vendriel Onyama. I don't know if I've met all of the professors and other adults on here, but I am a Law and Society major under Professor Laine. My question is that I didn't receive my mail-in ballot for the election just passed. I followed the helpful links in the emails that I've been receiving from Professor Bauer and Miss Albert. However, for some reason, I signed myself up first, and then just to be safe, I also registered my parents for mail-in ballots. But their ballots came and mine didn't, and I was confused because I registered before I registered them, and I used the exact same process, but it never came. So I was wondering, is there a way to track your ballot to make sure it's coming, to see if there's some kind of issue so you can reapply? Because I obviously didn't find out until it was too late. So I unfortunately missed this election, and I was under quarantine at the time, so I didn't have the option to actually go and vote in person, even though I wanted to, but I didn't think it'd be prudent to risk other people just, to go vote. Not saying voting isn't important, but in the grand scheme of things, I chose to stay at home. So is there some way to check your ballot to make sure they're coming, anything like that?
So what state are you in?
Oh, I live in PA.
In PA, what county?
Philadelphia.
You live in Philadelphia, so you
Yeah.
registered. What address did you use to register?
I use my home address. So it wasn't that it went to the school or anything. I'm a commuter student. So I voted in the past. I voted, once I turned 18, I registered to vote when I renewed my driver's license. So I've always been voting. It's just I was confused why I didn't get it this time because I voted in the past.
Okay, so
every election
you go online. I understand. That's great. So go to Votes PA, and when you go to Votes PA, there's a search function where you can check using either your driver's license or your name to be able to find out your voting record and what your status is currently right now. And if it doesn't show that you are A, registered to vote, or B, that you requested a mail-in ballot, you need to go ahead and you can actually either call and talk to a very nice person, although they are a little busy right now because of all the court cases, or you can go ahead based on whatever you find on Votes PA and choose a course of action. If you are registered, then you can see what address you're registered at in their system, right? And then you could go ahead and request a mail-in ballot. And then you can track the mail-in ballot when they send it to you, when they've received it, and when they've counted it on Votes PA.
And I was just going to add that there's a separate place to track the mail-in ballot. I mean, I could share a screen. I don't know if that's worth doing to show you, but it's on Votes PA site, which is really a good site. It's under the mail-in and absentee ballot link. And then you scroll down and it says track ballot. And what's a little confusing is if you've applied, because also if you applied for one in the primary, you had the ability to check a box that said you also want it in the general. And some people don't remember whether they checked that box or not. So you go in, you put your name, your date of birth, your community, blah, blah, blah. And they come up and they show you, what's going on with it. And on the right-hand side, it'll say pending if you're going to get one. Otherwise, I think you don't come up at all. I think, isn't that right, Aunt? Yeah, I think you don't show up. So if you don't show up at all, then something went wrong with now that would be the primary. And if you didn't check the box that you wanted in the general, that could be another reason why. Well, I don't know why you didn't get in the primary, but you definitely wouldn't be getting one in the general. So it's worth checking.
Yeah, just to be sure, I re-registered for this one because
well, you don't have to register to vote each election.
No, but I mean, wrong term. I reapplied.
Yeah, reapplied.
I applied for a second time just to be sure, since I didn't get it for the one.
Okay, and the other thing I just want to mention is I understand why you did, but the voter people really don't want you to apply twice if you can help it. They want you to, because they're going to be so overwhelmed. They want you to check to see if you already had one coming, if you have pending, if you have under mail-in ballot, track, check my mail-in ballot status. And if you come up in that database and it's pending, then you're good. But if you don't, then
go ahead, Sam.
You have to give them an email address. If you want to be tracking and have them send it, you get an email from the Department of State at each stage along the way if you gave them an email address.
That's true.
And the email will say Department of State. So you'll get an email from the Department of State when they mail you the ballot. You'll get an email from the Department of State when they've received your ballot. And you'll get another email from the Department of State saying they counted your ballot. Only if you gave them an email address. And you don't want to register twice. That's the whole problem we have with voter fraud. Instead of registering again, what you want to do, everyone needs to go and check what your status is, okay? So go to Votes PA and check what your current status is instead of trying to register again. I know everyone's just trying to cover their bases, but the election boards don't want any voter fraud. And so if you keep re-registering, you're going to get kicked out.
Or reapplying for a mail-in is what you mean, yeah.
Sam, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, just a couple of things. One, I put the link for that, the tracking function, and I just checked my own ballot, and it's all good.
That's pending.
Yeah, it's pending, providing that it's sent out and that it's arrives in the mail and that kind of thing. But I wanted to go over some of the questions that have come up in the chat box because they're good ones. So we've got a question from Nadia, who is, I don't think, on the call anymore, which is too bad. But she's saying that she has a voter card in Maryland, but can she vote in PA? And the answer is yes. Again, the voter card would be useful if you're voting repeatedly in Maryland. But again, once you move to Pennsylvania, within the U.S. system, you're a resident of PA, you can vote here.
I just want to just add to that, though. You should, to be absolutely kosher and legal, tell Maryland that you are not registered there anymore. Once you get your registration completed in and confirmed in Pennsylvania, then notify Maryland, I'm not registered. Eventually, you'll get thrown off, but to be absolutely legal, you should notify them.
And New Jersey is more careful about that than other states. So if you're going to flip-flop between Pennsylvania and New Jersey really wants you to tell them that you're no longer registered in New Jersey. And California is also very careful about that as well.
Yeah, so for tax and voting purposes, again, once you step foot in a new state with the intention to stay, you become a resident in that state. And then just another question, again from Nadia, who is no longer on the call, but it's an interesting question. So she has a Maryland driver's license. Can she register to vote in PA? And the answer is yes, because the system of driver's license and the system of voting is completely different. I mean, oftentimes one is used to verify. However, the systems are different. It's perfectly possible, legal, to have a driver's license from one state and vote in another state.
So in that case, she would use her social security number, but they need a signature. And in Pennsylvania, only 3 days ago was it possible to do it online to get the signature, because what Pennsylvania is doing is using the signature that you did for your driver's license in order to verify your voter registration, whether it's a driver's license or a Pennsylvania ID card. And so without that, you had to use a paper copy. You had to do it on paper and mail it as of 3 days ago. Now you can do it electronically. And you have to use your social security, the last 4 digits of your social security number.
I mean, you could still, if you wanted to, it's very simple. Online, the paper form is available as a PDF. You just print it out, and you could fill it in that way. That's an alternative. But they want to see that signature. So
I have another question, because it's something that's been hanging over all of this, is the post office situation. Now, for those of us who are not going to vote in person, how can we assure, in light of the fact of the significant delays we hear that are going on with even first-class mail? I believe 7% of first-class mail has been intentionally delayed for whatever reason as of yesterday. How can we assure that our vote is actually to be counted?
You can track it. So you're going to have to really look, all of us are going to have to look carefully at timing. So if, in theory, if the ballots in Pennsylvania were supposed to be mailed on the 19th of September, if they had been mailed on the 19th of September, I would have gotten mine next week, even with the delay. I would have gotten it sometime next week. And if I mail it the same day I get it, which would have been still in September, it would have got there by November 3rd. But now with the court cases delaying the ballot being printed and mailed out, you're going to have to look at when you actually get it and make a decision. So what date does the ballot actually arrive at your house? And then you're going to have to make a decision. Do I see if the Dropbox legal suit has been resolved, and I'm going to put it in a Dropbox? Do I go to Center City and make sure it's deposited in Center City, because that's always available? Do I mail it and then track it? So everybody's going to have to make a different decision based on when you actually get the ballot in your hand, in relation to when that's going to happen.
Listen, we all go, not all, a lot of us are going into supermarkets with our PPE, going in and out. The one way we can guarantee our vote counts is to go in there. Wear our masks. We should be wearing our masks anyway. I really do think that by putting it in the mail, we are putting it at risk. If you can't do it, then get it out immediately. No delay. And put extra postage on it. Make it first class. Don't make it bulk. It's only going to cost you $1 more or whatever. It's worth it.
I have some news that just came through. My husband just told me the Supreme Court from Pennsylvania has just decided the Green Party will not be on the ballot, so that now
they can print.
That they can print the ballots. And he also said that is this right, Jeff? They extended the deadline for getting mail-in ballots to the Saturday after. Jeff, is that right? The Friday after, which is like,
yeah,
well, they extended it 4 days.
Yeah, so look at your news, because that might be. I'll put that out online. So that's good news in terms of the mail.
Yeah, that's good.
I was just going to say one more thing about if you do get a mail-in ballot and you decide it's too late and you want to vote in person,
You can.
You can actually bring the whole ballot with its envelope to your polling place, and the judge of elections will allow you to vote normally, as long as you have that ballot with you.
So for the polling places in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, every polling place is being supplied with PPE. Every polling place is being cleaned thoroughly throughout the day. Every polling place in Philadelphia has monitors at the polling place. Every polling place will have the plexiglass screens between you and the workers that are working there. And every polling place will hand you latex gloves or nitrile gloves to put on, that you're going to wear gloves in order to use the machine, and then you're going to dump them in a bin. Every polling place in Philadelphia is going to do all of those things, because I talked to the guy today.
Wow.
Terrific. We have a question from one of the students, I believe. She says, I was able to see that my request for a mail-in ballot was received and processed back in May, so my status is pending. However, I recently moved to a new address in Philadelphia. The DMV has sent me a change of address paper, but is there anything else I should do to make sure the address of my voter registration is also updated?
What do you think, Ann? I think she should
You got to do a
re-register.
change of address.
Yeah, it's the same as the new registration form.
But there's a box that you do just change of address. So
I would do
go
that.
back to Votes PA and do a change of address to whatever your current address is.
Yeah.
Okay. Does any Sam, do you have anything you want to add?
Well, just one brief comment to put this in a little bit of global perspective. In other countries, the federal government runs elections, which doesn't happen in this country. So in this country, each state and each municipality has a voting board or a voting division that runs elections. Whereas if you go in France, the federal government runs elections. And I was talking with Caitlin Viola, who's on this call, about why the voter participation in the US is much lower than other countries. And I think one reason, and there are a variety of reasons, but one reason would be just the sheer complexity of the system.
Yeah.
And it really is because of the federal system we have in the US between the federal government and the states, and elections are the ambit of the states as opposed to the federal government.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'd love to know how to get more students engaged. If any of the students on this call have an idea.
Yeah, I really think that events like this are essential, because I really do feel like there's a lot of deterrence that goes on. A lot of people are discouraged, and a lot of people are genuinely, like, I can say for myself, even in high school, I was really determined, I was really convinced that my vote didn't count, just because of what I'd heard from others, which is really scary to hear that information circulating. It's really important to emphasize to people how important it is to exercise your right to vote, because if everyone thought that their vote didn't matter, then
Katie, first, great to see you. It's been a while. How are you?
You too.
And secondly, this is being recorded. So what we're going to do is I'm going to send it out to everybody. And for you folks who are far more adept at social media than we are, spread out this link.
Absolutely.
Because this is critical information. I can't think of anything more important. And these are great questions all you folks have answered. We have experts here actually giving answers to all these confusing things. So I'm relying on you students to send it out. We have Andrew Hart, my friend from India, is here late because I'm sure he was building a building somewhere. Andy, anything to add?
Yeah, thanks. First of all, thanks for having me. And I apologize for being late, but we're actually out canvassing in the neighborhood today. So I live in North Philadelphia, and there's a big concern that COVID has hit really strongly, and turnout in North Philadelphia was low last election. I live in a community that is historically under-resourced. And and then in the May primaries, our election locations moved around a lot. As with most poll workers are grandmas. So I really like the hashtag Save a Grandma campaign. But I was going to say that I have been really enthusiastic that there's been a lot of either power to the polls or votespa.org or just contacting the Philadelphia poll workers. I will say, for students to reach out, because you're a real resource and you don't have to even be of voting age to be of assistance in doing those things. And so, and I don't know about everybody else, but it has always been the grandmas that have been the poll workers, and it's time for other people to take that over and appreciate that and that work. By the way, in the state of Pennsylvania, you get paid to be at the polls. It's a long day, but you do get paid for it. And there's a training that the city of Philadelphia and Fairmount Votes actually started this training session. That's available as well. But Fairmount Votes was initially started for the neighborhood of Fairmount, but the data is good for the entire city of Philadelphia. And students, as residents that live here, you can be a part of this, right? You can be a resident and vote in wherever you are registered, but you can opt to be registered to vote in Philadelphia because you are a member of this community. So you have to decide. You can only be in one, but you have to decide where you want to be. So that's another thing that I would just point out to people, because we're really trying to make sure that everyone that has that right exercises it. I think like any muscle, if you don't exercise it, it atrophies. And, exercising it only feels good after you do it for a while. And I think voting feels good after you do it for a while as well. So I just encourage everybody to do that. We're trying to get as many people out as we can. And there's definitely a lot of confusion around it. And I know that actually, Stephen Colbert just launched Better Know a Ballot, and Pennsylvania was one of the first videos that he published, but there's lots of places that have one-stop shopping for if you're confused, if you want to help out, if you have a family member who's confused, because chances are if you're here today, it's because you give a damn. And so I would say, the best thing that you can do is activate and empower other people that didn't have a chance to come today, but wanted to, mentioning it to somebody that you think might be interested. I have been on the phone just trying to get people ballot information, not political information, just ballot information. Mm-hmm. And I have talked to I talked to a 70-year-old woman from Beaver County, Pennsylvania, mm-hmm. and she was fired up and angry because she asked for her ballot 3 times and hadn't gotten it yet. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know who to get in touch with her, but I got her information. I got her in touch with the central office at Pennsylvania. They had a district person come out and make sure that she got her information and go over it with her through her screen door. That's one person that didn't know what to do and was feeling very, very closed off right now. So even if just one person does that for one other person, that makes a huge impact. And again, I'm sorry I'm late, but that was literally out on the sidewalk, and then I remembered. I was like, oh my gosh, it's time for this.
No problem at all, Andy. Does any of Georgia is an RA, and she just wanted to know, how does she talk to students or best talk to students in the dorms to get them registered? Is that it, Georgia?
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, I mean, I was answering on chat saying, maybe we should reach out to RAs in particular. Is there a way that we can get a list of all RAs and say?
So I can reach out to all of them. My only concern is that some first years don't even respond to my emails, and I'm their RA.
Right.
So if they see like a email that's just floating by, they kind of ignore it.
Right. That's our dilemma.
Just to know, on campus, physically on campus, there are 2 voting displays with all the information that you need and paper forms. They are located in the fitness center, in the Gallagher Fitness Center. As soon as you walk in the door, there's a giant poster, and there's lots of information with QR codes that you can simply take your phone and scan, and it sends you right to the voter registration page. So you can direct students to the Gallagher Fitness Center. You can direct students to the library. The Gutman Library, also at the circulation desk, has a display. It has all the paper forms that you need for Pennsylvania. It has the QR code, again, that you can scan. So if you are an RA, direct students to those 2 locations on campus If students have questions, they can email Karen or I, and we will answer any question. We send out every single week an email with our email addresses asking for questions, giving students the link on how to vote for 6 different states. If they read their email, we are here to help.
Too
But they
much.
have to reach out.
And there's
We
a
cannot come to them. They have to reach out.
And there's a contest going. You want to tell about the contest?
So we have a contest going for $100 for the student who registers the most people to vote. It's on Instagram. Instagram. Don't you guys use Instagram? So there's a QR code that's gone out on your email with a flyer that you scan. And every time you register somebody to vote, you scan for the contest. The contest is going until the 22nd of September because that is National Voter Registration Day. Go ahead and tell all the students you know there's a contest to register other students to vote, and the winner gets $100 next week.
Go to Gutman or Gallagher and you'll see the Instagram flyer there. So.
Just
Georgia?
2 other things. You can also register through Snapchat at this point. You literally don't have to leave. Like, I know that a majority of my age group uses Snapchat, if not literally everybody.
Wow.
So, and you literally don't even have to leave the app. It's like completely through Snapchat.
Really?
And as to Georgia's point, I think that the bulletin boards that your residents are going to pass and have no choice but to pass when going to class and coming from class, if you were to just photocopy or like, you know, make a copy at the library of this QR that both of you are referring to and literally just post it on the bulletin board and said like, just put your phone up to this and it will provide you with the means to register to vote. It sounds so silly, but like taking that additional step as opposed to telling students to go to the library or to go to the gym will make it just all the more easy for people to be like, you know, I'm going home right now or I'm going to class right now. I'm passing this every day. Why don't I just register?
The trouble is a lot of students are not on campus. So that's, you know.
Right.
So we only know email, Instagram, maybe we'll try to look into Snapchat.
So we send out an email every week that has web links to all the resources.
Yeah.
We can try adding the QR code, but we can only do the QR code for Pennsylvania. We cannot do QR codes for 15 different states. And at some point, people actually have to step up and hit a button on an email that takes you directly to your voter services.
And I would add that a lot of students have already done this.
Okay. We hope.
Yeah. So I mean, Karen, it seems like you've had good response from students. You've helped a lot of students.
On campus, we had better. Since I've been sending the emails, I've only had like a trickle of response, so I can't tell if anybody's seeing them. I do have a list of all the registered voters at the mailbox at our university, and I'm going to try to put something together and email all of them. Of course, I don't know exactly what to tell them because if they use their address on campus as for mail-in, that could be a problem. But at least, you know, I'll make a connection with them. So there are a lot of students already registered. You're right, but you know, we have a whole new freshman class, and I'm sure there's others who aren't. And it's hard.
Are there any questions from the students? Georgia, you want to raise a question?
So what I think I'm gonna, it's not really a question, but what I think I'm gonna do is we're allowed to print out flyers and send it to every RA on campus. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna design a flyer and use that QR code so people could just scan it, and then we'll hang it in the residence halls so that they don't even have to leave when they're going to the bathroom, they can scan it, because we have bulletin boards in every single.
If you wouldn't mind sharing, if you think of it, oh shoot.
All methods, I think all methods are valuable. You know, this happens we talk about this with students too. Like, students aren't ready to listen until they're ready to listen, and then they need that information right away. Well, that's just how humans are. And so I will say, like, I talked to that lady who was 70 years old in Beaver County, but I also made 60 phone calls that I got hung up on before that one. And I was ready to quit. I was so ready to quit, because it's not about having success every time. It's really about just aggregate, right? Like we need herd voting is what we need. That's the herd mentality that we need, is herd voting. And, you know, and the more that people vote, the more that everybody votes. And there's a certain, you know, it becomes part of the culture, it becomes part of what we're doing. I know that so I'm volunteering to be a poll worker and doing assistance. So, you know, you can also reach out to faculty that you have on Tuesdays. So I have actually made my class on Tuesday, you know, we have shifted, our topic is going to be about that day, but it's going to be a low threshold day, but you're going to need to show what it is that you're doing to be a responsible member of. We're talking about citizenship on that day. And so I'm going to be at the polls from early until late. So students are going to need to hashtag into my class how they're being a citizen just on that day. And if that means that they're returning back to home because they have to vote in person, then they have that, you know, they have that freedom from my class. And I highly doubt that you will have any faculty member that, you know, if you're being responsible and you're letting them know and you're keeping them in the loop, I would bet that you would find nothing but support. The key, because we just had a site visit today, the key is not telling us 5 minutes before class. The key is letting us know a month out, a week out, maybe 47 days out would be helpful, you know? And again, I would say any method of communication is valuable because, you know, sometimes I see stuff on email, sometimes I see stuff on GroupMe, sometimes I see stuff sometimes I see stuff from my neighbor. And then sometimes my wife says, don't you have a meeting at 1 o'clock? So.
Any other? Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Kate.
Just before I leave, because I have a meeting at 1:30, I just wanted to mention recently we established as students an honor society. So it's a criminal justice honor society at Jefferson. I'm vice president, and Benjiel Onyama, who actually I think just left the call, is president of. We plan on doing a lot of voting efforts and making information sessions around like future elections. It's a little late now, but we actually plan to have done one in the beginning of this month, but we figured the roundtable would kind of cover most of what we were going to go over. But it's pretty much open to any and all Jefferson students. So if anyone wants to join at all, I'm just going to drop Benjiel's contact information in case you want to reach out through email. It's a really great opportunity for networking opportunities and other events around campus. So I'm just going to drop contact.
Thanks, Kate. And that's a Law and Society Honors Society.
Well, so it's called National Criminal Justice Honor Society, but it is for Law and Society students.
Any other questions before we go? Okay, I want to thank really our experts. I'll give Andy the last word. I want to thank Anne and Karen for amazing information. I know a lot more. Again, please, students, I'm going to send to you the link. Pass it around. Andy, last statement?
Sure. I was just going to say, I reached out to, again, like, it's more important to me that people exercise their right than it does not matter to me what your opinion is. It's much more important that we collectively exercise our rights. And I think regular exercising of our rights yields conversation, yields better governance. So I will say that we don't have any student political organizations on campus. And I think that is a right that's worth exercising. So I had reached out to several party reps to see if they were interested in supporting it, because in my undergrad and graduate, those were very robust places. They tend to surge every 4 years. That's just kind of how it goes. But all four that I was able to get in touch with, Democrats, Republicans, Green Party, and Philadelphia Socialists, all said that if you want to talk to somebody, they would love to talk to you. If you want to be involved with them, they would love to show you how to be involved. If you want to have a debate where we have those parties square off against each other on campus, really, it was amazing. Every single party was just happy to have involvement. And again, that goes to the core of, I think, who we are as a people. Is like, everybody's like, oh yeah, we agree. Let's agree to get together and disagree real good. And and as a professor and as a citizen, that fires me up. And I think that empowers us all.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay, I'll be sending this out to everyone. Thanks for everyone who showed up, and please pass it on. Take care. Have a good weekend.